The galaxy called her the Widow, a title born not from marriage or tragedy, but from the aftermath she left behind. Entire fleets burned in her wake. Commanders vanished, empires wept, and still no one could kill her. When she was finally captured, the tribunal didn't dare execute her. They feared her even in death. So the aliens did what no one expected. They sentenced her to live among the very species she despised most: humans. Elias Ward wasn't there to see the trial, but his name was chosen all the same. A former soldier from a war Earth had nearly lost. He lived in a small cabin outside New Denver, trying to forget the sound of machines screaming and men dying. He had no family left, no medals worth keeping, only silence. When the letter came, he thought it was some bureaucratic mistake, until the ship landed behind his home. The ground trembled. The night split open with blue light. Out stepped 3 alien officers, their faces hidden behind metallic masks. Between them floated a cage made of energy, humming softly like the sound of a dying star. Inside, a woman knelt. Her skin shimmered like mercury, her hair a cascade of silver threads that moved even without wind. Her eyes were closed, her lips slightly parted. She looked fragile, broken almost, until her eyes opened. They were white, pure white, no iris, no pupil. They stared through everything. "Human Elias Ward," said one of the masked officers, his voice filtered through static. "By decree of the Galactic Tribunal, this entity, designation Widow Prime, is to be exiled under your custody. Your planet's council has consented to this arrangement. You will serve as her guardian until sentence completion." Elias blinked, still gripping the old shotgun he hadn't used in years. "Guardian?" he said, his voice dry. "I'm no warden." The officer tilted his head. "It matters not. She is bound to you by geocode. Her presence ensures compliance. Should you attempt to harm or abandon her, the bond will kill you both." "Kill me?" Elias scoffed. "That's supposed to make me feel better." The officer ignored the sarcasm. "You have been selected due to your psychological stability, resistance to xenopathic influence, and lack of communal ties. You are expendable," Elias snorted. "Well, at least someone finally said it." The cage lowered. The woman's head tilted slightly, and for a moment the air thickened with something unseen. The soldiers flinched, their armor flickering as though something invisible had touched their systems. "Remain still," barked one of them. The widow smiled, slowly, eerily. "You brought me to a human," she said, her voice soft and melodic, yet layered with an undertone that vibrated through the bones. "How merciful of you." "Silence," the officer ordered. "Your speech privileges will be revoked if—" His words cut off as she raised one finger. A faint pulse of light spread from her body, and every piece of alien tech within 10 meters went dark. The ship dimmed. The officers staggered back, shouting in their tongue. Elias didn't move. He couldn't. Then she looked at him. "Kill me," she whispered. "Before I destroy you too." He should have. Every part of him screamed to pull the trigger, to end whatever this was before it began. But her voice wasn't defiant, it was pleading. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he lowered the gun. Moments later, the ship rebooted. The officers restrained her again, this time with chains that burned faintly against her skin. The smell of ozone filled the air. "Containment restored," one of them muttered. The leader turned to Elias. "Do not attempt contact unless necessary. She is capable of manipulating organic matter at the molecular level. You will be monitored." Elias's jaw tightened. "And if she kills me?" The officer paused. "Then your death will complete the sentence." They left her there, kneeling in the dirt. The ship ascended, light folding around it until it vanished into the night sky, leaving silence behind. Only then did Elias notice her chains. They weren't metal, but living strands of light, moving slightly with every breath she took. He took a hesitant step forward. "So," he muttered, "guess you're my punishment too." She lifted her head, those white eyes reflecting the faint glow of the stars. "You're not ready for me," she said. "Never said I was." He gestured toward the cabin. "Come on. I'm not letting an intergalactic executioner freeze to death on my lawn." Her lips curved slightly. "You're braver than most." Stupider, probably. Inside, he cleared space on the floor, still half expecting her to vanish, or worse, explode. He fetched an old blanket, the same one he used to wrap his dog before burying him years ago. As he draped it around her shoulders, her skin glowed faintly where his fingers brushed. "You're warm," he muttered. "Not warmth," she corrected softly. "Energy. I am leaking it. I won't last long in this form. Then what do you need?" Her gaze lifted toward him, unblinking. "An anchor. I don't know what that means." "You will." The firelight flickered between them. Outside, the wind howled through the pines, but the air inside the cabin was unnaturally still. She sat motionless, staring into the flames, her chains humming like distant thunder. Elias leaned against the counter, rubbing his temple. "You know," he said after a while, "for a galactic war criminal, you don't look like much." "Looks deceive," she said. "I was made to destroy." "I succeeded." He didn't ask how. He didn't need to. There was something in her voice, something hollow, like a song that had lost its melody. "You're not afraid of me," she observed. "I've seen worse," he said quietly. "Then you've seen nothing." For a moment the silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. Then, without warning, the fire dimmed. Every shadow in the room seemed to bend toward her, drawn by her presence. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They will come for me, Elias Ward, and when they do, you'll wish you'd killed me tonight." The shadows around her pulsed once, then retreated. She lowered her head again, the faintest tremor in her hands. Elias stared, the reality of his new existence setting in. A weapon disguised as a woman, exiled to his home, bound by a sentence he didn't understand. And yet, something in him, some small, stubborn spark, refused to fear her. "Then I guess we'll see," he said quietly. "If your death, we'll meet it together." Her eyes flicked toward him, glowing faintly like twin moons. "Together," she repeated, her voice both a promise and a warning. And outside, high above the earth, unseen ships watched through cloaked sensors, recording every heartbeat that passed between the monster and her unwilling keeper. Elias Ward didn't sleep the first night she arrived. How could he? The alien woman sat in his cellar, chained and silent, the soft blue hum of her restraints pulsing through the floorboards like a heartbeat. Every time he closed his eyes, he swore he could hear her breathing in sync with his own, slow, deliberate, like she was matching the rhythm on purpose. By dawn, his nerves were raw. He sat at the kitchen table, a half-drunk cup of coffee cooling beside the old revolver he hadn't touched in years. Outside, the snow fell soft and soundless, blanketing the world in a kind of peace that mocked the chaos beneath his feet. "She's not human," he muttered to himself. "She's not anything." But even as he said it, he couldn't shake the image of her eyes, the way they'd stared at him the night before, white and endless. When she'd said, "Kill me before I destroy you," he hadn't been able to tell if it was a warning or a plea. By mid-morning, he forced himself to go downstairs. The steel door groaned as he unlatched it. The cellar smelled of cold metal and ozone, the air humming faintly around her. She was still there, sitting exactly as he'd left her. Knees drawn to her chest, chains wrapped around her wrists, the faint light from them casting ghostly shapes on the walls. "You awake?" he asked cautiously. Her head tilted slightly, though her eyes remained closed. "You haven't slept," Elias froze. "How would you know that?" "I can feel it," she said simply. "Your thoughts are loud." That made him tense. "You're reading my mind?" "I'm hearing it," she replied. "Like a storm through glass." Her eyes opened now, those impossible white irises catching the dim light. "I can't stop it, not when you think so close to me." He rubbed a hand over his face. "So you're psychic too, great." "I'm not psychic," she said, her tone calm, patient, as if explaining to a child. "I was designed to connect. It's how I killed them." Her words hung in the air. Elias swallowed hard. "Killed who?" "The ones who made me," she said. "The architects. They built weapons like me to control lesser species. But I felt their fear, their cruelty, their hunger to erase what they couldn't master. So I turned it back on them." She paused, lowering her gaze. "It took one heartbeat to end 100 minds. They named me Widow after that." Elias tried to find words, but none came. How do you respond to someone who says they've killed gods? Finally, he said quietly, and now they sent you here as punishment, she said. They feared to kill me outright. They fear death, though they call it inefficiency. And me? You are their irony. She tilted her head, studying him with unnerving curiosity. A man broken by his own wars, haunted by ghosts he can't see. You and I are both remnants of violence. Perhaps they thought you'd understand me. Elias snorted. Understand you? Lady, I don't even understand half of what you're saying. Her lips curved faintly. Not quite a smile, but something close. You're honest. That's rare. He sat on the bottom step, leaning his arms on his knees. You said I'm expendable. Why not kill me and leave? The air changed then. She looked at him for a long moment, her gaze heavy, piercing. Because I'm bound, she said softly. The geocode links my life to yours. If you die, I die. If I die, you die. The tribunal wanted me trapped in empathy, a thing I was never meant to feel. So we're stuck together. Yes. He chuckled bitterly. Hell of a punishment. The faint hum from her chains shifted in tone, softer now, almost melodic. Elias noticed that her hands, slender, metallic at the fingertips, were trembling slightly. He frowned. Are you cold? She blinked, surprised by the question. Cold? Yeah, temperature. I know what it is, she said. But no one's ever asked me if I feel it. Well, do you? She hesitated, then nodded once. A little. Elias sighed and stood. Wait here. He returned a few minutes later with an old wool blanket. It was frayed, patched, smelled faintly of dust and pine sap, but it was all he had. He draped it over her shoulders carefully. Her skin, if it could be called that, was smooth and faintly warm, like stone left out in sunlight. When he stepped back, she was staring at him strangely. Why would you do that? What, give you a blanket? Yes, it's called decency, he said. You look half dead. And I don't want a corpse stinking up my cellar. She tilted her head again, trying to process the humor. You hide kindness behind cruelty. It's easier that way. He started up the stairs, but her voice stopped him halfway. Elias Ward, she said softly, do you know why they chose you? I'm starting to think I don't want to. They said your species still believes in redemption. He turned back to look at her. And you don't? She met his gaze. I've killed billions. There's no redemption for that. Then maybe there's something else, he said quietly. Something between guilt and forgiveness. Survival, maybe. Her eyes softened. You sound like someone who's still trying to forgive himself. He didn't answer. He just turned and climbed the stairs, leaving her in the half-dark. But her words stayed with him. That night the storm hit. Lightning split the sky, thunder rolling across the mountains like cannon fire. Elias sat awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind batter the windows. He told himself he wasn't worried, but when the hum from below stopped, his stomach twisted. He ran to the cellar. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. The hum of her chains was gone. The door to the cellar creaked open by itself, cold air spilling up the stairs. Widow? He called out, no answer. He grabbed his flashlight and descended. The beam cut through the dark, catching the faint shimmer of the broken chains lying on the floor, split, melted clean through. His heart pounded. Oh, hell! Then he saw her. She was standing in the far corner, her back to him, the blanket still draped over her shoulders. Her hair glowed faintly in the darkness. When she turned, the light caught her face, and for the first time Elias realized how human she looked now. The silver in her skin had faded, replaced by pale flesh. Her eyes still shone white but softer, as if the light within her was dimming. I told you, she said quietly. I can't hold it back forever. What did you do? He demanded. Why did you break the chains? They weren't holding me, she said. They were holding it, he frowned. It? The part of me they built to kill. Before he could move, the floor trembled. A pulse of energy rippled through the air, making his teeth ache. The faint light in her eyes flared bright again, and her voice changed, lower, echoing. Run, Elias, she said. Before I remember what I am. He raised the flashlight, heart racing, but what he saw made his blood run cold. Her shadow was no longer hers. It stretched across the wall, shifting, growing, forming the outline of something massive, with wings and claws and eyes that burned like suns. And in that moment, Elias realized that the tribunal hadn't sent her here to serve a sentence. They'd sent her here to contain her. The floorboards quaked beneath Elias's boots, dust raining from the ceiling, as the light around her body swelled to a blinding white. It wasn't just light, it was energy, alive and furious, bending the air around it like heat off metal. Elias shielded his eyes and shouted her name, but her voice answered from everywhere. "I warned you," she cried, her tone distorted, layered with echoes that seemed to come from inside his skull. "You should have run. I'm not leaving you," he yelled, even though he had no idea why. The moment he said it, the pulse in the room stopped, as if his words had reached whatever part of her was still fighting. The glow around her dimmed just enough for him to see her face again. Sweat, or something like it, ran down her cheeks, her body trembling like someone at war with themselves. Her eyes flickered between that soft human glow and the terrible white void he'd seen before. "They're coming," she gasped, clutching her head. "The architects, they felt the break." He stepped closer. "What does that mean?" "They know I'm alive," she said. "And they'll erase this world to bury me." Elias's breath hitched. "Erase the... You mean they'll destroy Earth?" Her gaze snapped to his, furious and pained. "Do you think this planet matters to them? Your noise, Elias, all of you. They see humanity as an error to delete." The words hit harder than any weapon. Elias's instinct screamed to get out, to run, hide, pretend this wasn't real. But something deeper in him, something left over from the soldier he used to be, refused to abandon her. "Then we don't let them," he said. "We fight." Her laugh was low, bitter, almost heartbreaking. "You don't understand. You can't fight them. They built me to destroy armies. I couldn't even stop them myself." "Maybe not alone," he said, stepping closer. "But you're not alone anymore." For the first time since she'd arrived, she didn't look like a weapon. She looked afraid. "You don't know what you're saying. If you help me, they'll kill me?" Elias cut in. "They already tried that once." He pulled back his sleeve, revealing the jagged scars along his arm, the mark of the alien fire that had ended the war years ago. "I've already lived through their hell." Her gaze softened. For a heartbeat, her body stopped trembling. "You're a fool," she whispered. "Yeah," he said, "but I'm your fool now." The air around them shifted again, an invisible vibration rolling through the cabin like the pressure before a storm. The lights flickered. Through the window, the night sky began to shimmer. Points of blue light appeared in the clouds, forming geometric shapes, symmetrical and perfect. Elias stared. "What the hell is that?" "The first wave," she murmured. "Scouts. They don't need ships. They rewrite space itself." He grabbed his rifle, though he knew it was useless. "Then tell me what to do." She looked at him, truly looked, like someone seeing light for the first time after a long darkness. "I don't know," she admitted. "No one's ever fought for me before." The ceiling cracked, sending down a shower of plaster. The glow outside intensified, casting the cabin in unnatural blue light. Elias turned toward the sound of tearing metal as his old generator outside exploded. Its pieces sucked upward into the sky like debris caught in a vacuum. She staggered, clutching her chest. "They're sinking with me. I can feel their call. They want me back in the network." Elias grabbed her shoulders. "Then cut the connection." "I can't." Her breath came in ragged gasps, her body flickering like static. "They're rewriting me, turning me back into what I was." He tightened his grip. "Then fight it." Her eyes flared white again, and for a moment he thought he'd lost her. Then she screamed, not in rage but in defiance, and the light burst outward. The shockwave knocked him to the ground. When he looked up, everything outside the cabin had changed. The trees, the snow, the sky, gone. In their place was a vast field of silver, stretching endlessly under a swirling sky filled with shifting shapes. Elias stood slowly, realizing the truth. They weren't in his world anymore. "They pulled us into theirs," she said, voice faint but steady. "Into the architect's plane." He stared at her, the silver light reflecting off her face. "Then we take the fight to them." Her lips parted, astonished. "You humans really don't know fear, do you?" "Oh, I know fear," he said, lifting the rifle. "I just don't let it win." From the horizon, figures began to emerge, tall, angular beings of light and shadow, moving like fluid metal, each one humming with a power that made his bones ache. Their heads were smooth, featureless domes, their eyes faint points of white fire. The widow stepped forward, her chains gone, her body pulsing with restrained energy. "They won't stop until I kneel." Elias moved beside her. "Then make them kneel first." The nearest architect raised a hand, and the air itself seemed to warp. Elias's vision blurred, reality folding in on itself. He felt his memories, his life, his grief, his home, slipping like sand through his fingers. "They're unmaking you," she said, panic in her voice. "They're turning your mind into numbers." He gritted his teeth. "Then rewrite me, damn it." She hesitated. "If I merge with you, you'll stop being human." "Lady, I stopped being human the day I buried everyone I loved." Something in his words hit her like a pulse. The glow around her shifted from white to gold. "Then hold on," she whispered. She pressed her palm against his chest. In that instant, the world exploded. It wasn't pain, it was everything. His mind flooded with stars, machines, memories not his own. He saw the birth of her world, its rise and fall, the cold perfection of the architects, their endless hunger for control. He felt her loneliness, centuries of isolation, endless punishment, and beneath it all, the faint flicker of something she'd never known before, hope. When the light dimmed, Elias stood taller, his body wreathed in faint energy. His rifle had fused with the strange glow, turning into something alive, part machine, part light. The architects froze. He smirked. "Guess I'm upgraded," the widow smiled faintly. "Half man, half catastrophe. Perfect." The first architect lunged. Elias fired. The shot wasn't bullets, it was thought, pure willpower shaped into a blast of gold light. It hit the creature square in the chest, shattering it like glass. The others hesitated. The widow lifted her arms, the ground beneath them rippling. "You wanted me back?" she shouted. "Then take all of me!" Her energy surged outward, forming a brilliant shield around them both. The architects attacked in unison, beams of white light cutting across the silver plains. Elias and the widow fought side by side, their movements synced, their thoughts linked. She wielded her power like poetry. He wielded it like war. Together they burned through the sky, but there were too many. For everyone they struck down, another rose. The light around her began to flicker, her strength faltering. "They'll overwhelm us," she gasped. "Then let's make it count," he said. He grabbed her hand, and for a moment their thoughts became one. Every fear, every memory, every heartbeat, they merged. Together, they turned their combined energy outward, one final surge of defiance. The world shook. The architects screamed, their forms fracturing, dissolving into streams of light that collapsed inward. The silver landscape shattered like glass, revealing the void beneath, a sea of endless stars. And in the center of it all, Elias and the widow stood locked in the glow, burning brighter than the stars themselves. When the light faded, the battlefield was gone. Only silence remained. Elias opened his eyes to find himself lying on the forest floor again, the snow soft beneath him, the world whole. He turned his head. The widow lay beside him, her glow gone, her body still. He reached for her hand. It was warm. "You did it," he whispered. Her lips moved faintly. "No, we did." And as her eyes closed, he felt the faint pulse of her energy merge deeper into his chest. The stars above flickered once, and for a heartbeat he thought they looked like they were bowing. Snow was falling again, real snow, soft and heavy, settling on the wreckage of what used to be Elias's cabin. He stood in the ruins, barely breathing, the cold stinging his skin. Everything around him was quiet, too quiet, like the world itself was holding its breath. The fight was over. The architects were gone. The sky above no longer shimmered with alien geometry or screaming light. It was just dawn now, pale and human. He looked down at the ground where she had fallen. The widow, the alien who had been his prisoner, his curse, his weapon, and something else he couldn't name. Her body was still, half buried in the frost. The faint silver glow that once danced beneath her skin was gone. Her eyes were closed, peaceful for the first time since he'd met her. Elias knelt beside her, brushing snow from her cheek. "Hey," he whispered, "don't you dare leave me now." No response. He swallowed hard, his breath fogging the air. His hands trembled as he checked her pulse, though he already knew the truth. There was none. Whatever light had been inside her, whatever strange energy had kept her alive through galaxies and wars, it was gone now. But her face, it looked almost human. The metallic sheen had faded completely. Her lips were pale, her expression soft. It hit him then. She wasn't a weapon anymore. She was something new, something fragile. "Damn it," he muttered, his voice cracking. "You weren't supposed to die." A gust of wind swept through the ruins, scattering snow into swirling spirals. Elias looked up, squinting through the cold. The forest stretched endlessly around him, untouched and beautiful. No trace of the silver plains or the shining void remained. If he hadn't seen it himself, he might have believed it was all a dream. But it wasn't. His body ached too much for dreams. His arm still burned faintly, veins pulsing with a dim blue glow that matched hers. He flexed his fingers, and the glow brightened. The connection wasn't gone. Not completely. Elias took a slow breath. "You said we were bound," he murmured. "So if you're gone, why am I still here?" As if in answer, a faint hum began in the air, a low vibration, soft and familiar. The same sound her voice made when she spoke to him without words. He turned, scanning the clearing. Widow, nothing. Just the wind. He rubbed his temples. Maybe he was losing it. Maybe the architects hadn't just changed her. They'd changed him. He stood, looking toward the horizon. The forest glowed faintly in the morning light, its branches heavy with frost. Somewhere far off a bird sang. Life had returned. Humanity was safe. But somehow that wasn't enough. He looked down at her one last time. "You saved them," he said quietly. "You saved all of us." He hesitated. "So why does it feel like I lost everything?" He turned to leave, then froze. The snow beside her hand was melting. Slowly, silently, the frost receded, and faint light began to spread beneath her skin once more. A tiny pulse of blue shimmered at her throat. Elias fell to his knees. "No way," he whispered. "No way." Her chest rose once, barely, and then again stronger. The hum grew louder, filling the air. Her fingers twitched. The faintest whisper escaped her lips. "Elias." He leaned closer. "I'm here. I'm right here." Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes not white, not alien, but a deep, luminous silver threaded with human brown. "What happened?" she breathed. "Oh, you burned the sky," he said with a shaky laugh. "Then you died. I thought—" His voice broke. "I thought you were gone." She looked at him for a long moment, studying his face like she was memorizing every line. "I was," she said softly. "But you called me back." He blinked. "I did? You refused to let me go," she said. "That's what life is for your kind, isn't it? Refusal, defiance." She sat up slowly, the blanket he'd once given her slipping from her shoulders. "You've changed me." Elias laughed bitterly. "Pretty sure you changed me first." She tilted her head, curiosity flickering in her gaze. "You're different," she said. "Your body hums. You carry my energy." He looked at his glowing hand. "Yeah, I noticed. That means the bond remains." Her tone shifted, serious now. "You are connected to the architect network. If they ever rise again, they'll feel you." He frowned. "Then we better make sure they don't rise again." She smiled faintly. "You speak like a warrior still." "Old habits," he said. "Hard to shake." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the forest wake around them. The world felt strange, fragile, reborn. When the light hit her face, she looked more alive than ever, not a creature of war, but something entirely new. Finally, she said quietly, "Do you hate me?" He looked at her, startled. "What?" "For what I was," she said. "For what they made me do. For what I almost did to your world." Elias shook his head slowly. "No," he said. I think I understand you better than anyone ever will. Her gaze softened. Understanding is dangerous, she said. So is love, she blinked, taken aback. You love me? He smiled faintly. Guess I'm too human not to. For the first time since he'd met her, she didn't know what to say. Her hand reached up, hesitant, almost trembling, and rested against his cheek. No one has ever spoken that word to me, she whispered. Get used to it, he said, his voice rough. You're stuck with me now. She leaned forward, her forehead resting against his. Then maybe this is what punishment was meant to be. To make me feel. He brushed a strand of silver hair from her face. Does it hurt? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. No, she said. It saves. They sat there for a long time, two remnants of a war the universe would never understand. Around them the snow melted, and the first signs of spring crept through the frost. Eventually she stood, looking toward the horizon. What will you do now, Elias Ward? He rose beside her, gazing at the forest bathed in morning light. Rebuild, he said. Live. Maybe try to be more than what they made of us. She nodded. Then I'll stay. With me? She turned to him, her expression soft. Where else would I go? I was sent here to be a prisoner, but somehow I found freedom. Elias smiled. Yeah, you and me both. As the sun climbed higher, they walked together through the forest, the snow crunching underfoot. Birds sang, the air smelled of pine, and for the first time since the sky had burned, everything felt alive. But far above, beyond the thin blue veil of atmosphere, something stirred in the void. Dormant machines twitching back to life, whispering to one another in the language of code and creation. And somewhere deep inside Elias's chest, the faint blue glow pulsed once, as if in answer. The widow turned to him, her eyes narrowing. They're not gone, she murmured. Elias met her gaze. Then we'll make sure they stay buried. She smiled, calm, certain, unafraid. Then this time, she said, taking his hand, we fight together. He squeezed her fingers gently. Always. The snow fell slower now, soft and golden in the sunlight. The world held its breath, balanced between peace and rebirth, and in that fragile quiet stood the man and the alien woman, two survivors of a universe that had tried to destroy them both. This time they wouldn't just survive. They would build. And somewhere in the heart of the new dawn, the widow smiled, not as a weapon, not as a curse, but as something wholly, finally human.